Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Captain Christian Walker.
Thank you all very much. The planning was great. I'm glad you found camp for today. He came up to me this morning. He said, "I went to the store last night. At midnight last night, I was duct taping my pants together just for you." So I appreciate that very much. Chief Whitehead, Mr. Rico, we've had many years together. Colonel Salcido, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. Ms. Langley, Colonel Frost, Chief Reagan, and Chief Friends. Colonel Salcido and Chief Friends are probably one of my very good mentors of the area, so I'm so glad they were able to come and visit. Colonel Salcido, I think she's been to my last few promotions, Tech Sergeant, Tech Sergeant, Master Sergeant, and Master Sergeant to Lieutenant. So that was glad you're here for this one as well. Chief Friends, like Colonel Flanagan said, was my first salute, so that was very honorable. Thank you for coming here. And they're actually both on their way out. They're both retiring very soon. I think half of my speech is devoted to all the people retiring in the next couple of months. But before I forget, I brought some cards for my friends. Being from the West Coast, my family is pretty far away, so the last 5-6 years, these have really been my true family in the area, so I got them all a little something. That's Elizabeth. Just so you know, Elizabeth and I met the first day of college, first class, at 8 a.m. in the morning, because we were both those stupid people that signed up late for college. They were like, 8 a.m. math class, that's a good idea. So we're sitting across the room together, and this teacher was a sort of hilarious math teacher, and all I hear is, so I'm like, well, we're going to be friends. 13 years later. Renee, I met the first 2 days I moved to DC. She's been a good friend ever since then. Nick is my roommate, actually, and we met randomly in Las Vegas, and we're like, you live in DC? Me too. Anthony and we were great friends. We met at the beach randomly, and I was like, well, what are you doing next week? And he's like, oh, I'm going to Florida. I'm like, well, me too. And he's like, what are you doing the weekend after that? New York. Me too. What are you doing after that? DC. Me too. We had like 6 weeks of vacation. So I knew we had to be friends. Barb, thank you for being their escort. I appreciate it. For my next thank yous, I wanted to say, I had a great little thing but they asked me yesterday, they're like, do you need a mic? And I was like, really, have you met me? Don't need a mic. But we took a little inner office poll for who the loudest people in the office were, and I'm actually number 5. So I'd like to point out the louder people. We have Miss Witha Hicks. Obviously helped me. She actually did all my paperwork to commission and helped me today, so she's obviously, thank you very much, and all of A1P. Who else do we have? Kim Hunter. Doing all the food prep along with Sergeant Lord, Sergeant Baker, and Chief Master Sergeant retired Pat Jones. So I thank them, and Kaz also helped. Anyone else, thank you for the food. And it's going to be great. We're going to have waffles and sausage and eggs and all the fun stuff afterwards. So that's 2. That's the top 3. And then we have Sergeant Ferguson. She's retiring also next month. I don't know if anybody knew. She only has 4 Mondays left. So that's good. But she actually planned this whole ceremony for me. I think she has 1 more left before she puts up her planning hat. But thank you so much, Sergeant Ferguson. She actually we met, she was looking for a staff sergeant at Crystal City, and she was hunting, and there's like no staff sergeants in this building. So she found me to help out with one of her projects, and we've been friends since 2009, I guess. So thank you so much, Sergeant Ferguson. And lastly, he actually ruined my number 1, but we all know who the loudest person in A1 is, Major Mike Donay. He was the MC for today's group, but he had personal things to take care of today, so I actually asked Captain Uber Kofod to come in and replace him. You're not as loud, but thank you so much. She has a beautiful baby girl. So, and lastly, Chief Seymour, thank you so much for singing the national anthem. You're always making backups. So no, thank you very much. She always does better. She sang at the National Ballpark and the Richmond races. That was fun too. So I always appreciate it and I love your singing. I think that's thank you. So I also would like to thank the A1 team and Colonel flaking everything. But they're for coming out here. A lot of my team are telework. They work in different states. They're able to get it up with us. So Colonel Flanagan definitely got along with my basic history, but I'd just like to point out how I got into the Guard. And just so you know, my parents didn't waste any money on my education. It was all the Air National Guard. So in high school, I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. In high school, I don't know what's going on. So I was like, there's this internship program at school. So I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. That's the way I'm going to go. So I went to a law office. I was there for 6 months, and I was like, no, this is not going to work for me. So I went, I'm going to be a news anchor. So I went to the news anchor, the local news station, and they said, you know, you have to be here at 3 a.m. every day. And I was like, I am not a morning person to this day, and this is not going to work out. So I was actually thinking pilot. So, and the local, I was told by the internship person that the local Air National Guard has pilots, obviously. So I went down, I didn't know about this my entire life, 17 years at that point, I didn't know that there was an Air National Guard unit, literally 2 miles from my house. So we went there, I went to the pilot section, I figured out that like, if you don't really, really, really want to be a pilot, you probably shouldn't do it. And I was like, no, I don't really want to do it. Could do it, but I didn't know, and I didn't have a degree at the time. So I ended up working in the recruiting office, actually, 16, 17, and I just saw people coming in, their lives changing daily. And after I graduated high school, I was 17, my mom, I had to ask that awkward question to my mom, hey, could you just sign this form? I'm just going to join the military. And she's like, no. So I was like, well, I have 3 months, I'm going to be 18, so you might as well do it now. And she reluctantly signed the form, and I joined the Air National Guard in 2000, went off to basic training in 2001, and that was an enlightening experience. I'll remember that for the rest of my life. And I came back September 5th of 2001. So my family freaked out on September 11th. My entire family, both sides, not military, so they had no idea what was going on. I sort of didn't know what was going on, but luckily everything worked out for the best. So that was my career. I was trying to do 6 years, get out, you know, like the typical enlistee at the time. I got into logistics. It wasn't my favorite area. I did well in it, but it was all right. And I liked going to the Air National Guard base as a whole. They really took care of me. They were always my summer job during the year. So I actually, those 6 years, obviously developed a love for the National Guard. And during the 6-year time period, I was told, do you want to re-enlist? And I was like, well, I do really want to re-enlist, but I also want to travel. So I made a deal with the commander at the time I actually took off all of 2007. I made up my drill prior, after, but I traveled the world for 13 months in 2007. So I still have a good year, so don't worry. Personally. So that was the deal, and I signed up, and I got back, and I was poor. Very, very, very poor. So I was like, ooh, I guess I'll go back to my go-to, and went to the Air National Guard, was working there for a couple of months, and then I was talking to my recruiting friends, and they said, we have this 4-month stat tour, or ADOS tour, which is just a temp tour, I guess, just to explain. And it's only for 4 months, you go up to DC, you're gonna work in this glorious place called Crystal City. And I was literally thinking Wizard of Oz. Place. So I get here for this 4-month tour. Chief Friends was the first person that I saw. He picked me up at the place I was staying. We took the metro to Crystal City, and I get out, and I'm like, oh, this is the 70s, that blew up. So we went to JP1, and I was like, this is nice, and this is the headquarters. Okay, National Guard here, okay, I guess. So I met all my recruiting team, eventually became a recruiter. And that day, I will never forget, it was Sergeant Frank
Casper.
and he came up to me and he's like, "You're going to be here for 4 months? You'll be here for a while." And I was like, no, I'm going to NYU. I got accepted. I'm going to New York. Da, da, da. He's like, "No, you'll be here for a couple of years at least." And I was like, so we're approaching 6 years now for my 4-month tour. I loved every minute of it. I became a recruiter under Colonel Salcido, under the leadership of Chief Brenz. That was very great. I was officer recruiter for a little bit, so I recruited myself to an officer. So I joined the Delaware. That's pretty good. So that's the time period that led me up to here. But I'd like to point out there's 3 large things that happened in 2011. One of them was I achieved the rank that I was trying to achieve in the enlisted grade was Master Sergeant. So January of 2011, I was graciously allowed to be the NCO into the NTO rank as Master Sergeant. And that was a good day in January. I only held it for 11 months, but I did reach that time period in my life, and I was very proud of that. The second big thing was I commissioned. So I was 11 years enlisted, and I started my route into being commissioned officer. It's been great. Going to guard drills is interesting. I didn't know that we could basically go to meetings the entire time of the guard drill weekend. I was like, I just want to do something. No, you have another meeting you have to go to. I was like, okay. So that's my guard drill now. And I'm probably the most, well, it is the most significant thing that happened to me in 2011. Actually affected my entire Air National Guard career, and it's been with me since I joined. Is really hard, and that was it was the ending of the law Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and that law ended, and it gave me the freedom to say there are 66,000 men and women, gay men and women serving in the military, active, guard, and reserves, and I'm thankful to be proud enough to tell you that I'm one of them. So thank you.